up next, we're going to hear from our chief, Gene Peltola.
Good evening. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here tonight. It means a lot to me. I'll never forget this evening. But Dan just made a comment, Chief. I want to tell you a little story. You probably heard it, some of you have heard it before. About the last year that my uncle Eddie Hoffman was alive, I was president of ABCP, he was on the board. And I brought him down to Juneau about this time of the year, just after the legislature came into session. And John Bickley was in the House then. And just before lunch, we had about 11 o'clock. And I said, Eddie, let's go up to and sit in the gallery and watch the House interact on the floor there. And so we went up there, and no sooner did we sat down that John Bickley was like he had eyes behind his head, and he turned around and he waved at us. Then the Speaker of the House then was Ben Gusendorf from Sitka, and he called a recess. Bickley went up and talked to him for a while, and then we came back in session, and he said, I'd like to suspend the rules to give Representative Bickley a chance to introduce two of his constituents. And so John went on this spiel about Eddie Hoffman and about me, and Eddie and I kind of told him to get up with me, and we waved and sat down, and he hit me in the ribs, and he says, they're waving and clapping it for me, because I'm the big chief, you're just a little chief. But while I've never expected this type of a turnout, these comments, but I want to talk about, some of the comments made tonight are not really that accurate. The creation of Aeromed. On the 16th of January 1997, we received a certified letter from the FAA. At that time, Mark Air was out of business already. It was Reeve and Alaska Airlines providing jet services out of Anchorage to Bethel. And Dan was correct. Our standard type of medevac was we'd buy 3 rows of seats, and we'd have the gurney strapped in with the patient, and the attendant there, and the airlines had a waiver of the federal air regulations allowing hazmat on passenger aircraft. And this letter came in and said that they would terminate those waivers as of the end of the calendar year. And ironically, this was within 10 days after the National Safety Transportation Board came out with a ruling on the value jet crash in Everglades and was contributing to the oxygen canisters in the cargo hold. And we went back and looked at the numbers. Like Dan said, there was a major RSV epidemic the previous year. We had 384 medevacs to Anchorage. Medevac at that time was about $14,000 medevac, and we're a closed-held, fixed capitated operation. I didn't have the ability to cut over $3 million out of our operation if we duplicated those volumes. And we brainstormed and brainstormed, didn't get anywhere. And I'm telling you this because a lot of times opportunity falls in your lap. I'm talking like a professor now, because if opportunity falls in your lap, run with it. Make it happen. And I was meeting with Hal Horton. Steve Hutchins dropped me off at Hal's office, and Hal said, how you doing on your medevac dilemma? And I said, not good. We've been brainstorming. We haven't gotten anywhere. He said, you got some time? I said, yeah. I got 2 hours. I got to be at the airport to catch a plane back to Bethel. He said, let's go up to the airport. And he brought me over to FS Air and introduced me to Floyd Saltz. And Floyd was showing us his Learn 3035. He had an international critical care air ambulance certificate. And he had crew quarters there. Pilots bunked there, so they're available 24/7s. He had his flight nurses and paramedics bunking there. They were available 24/7s. And he really couldn't break into the medevac business. Once in a while, Prov or Alaska Regional would roll a flight over to him. And I'd already gone to Prov and tried to joint venture with Prov. They weren't interested in it. I even went to Alaska Regional's provider, Penn Air, and talked to Oren and see if we could joint venture. And he said, I've always been an independent person. I don't want to enter into a joint venture. And so we just crawled out of the Lear 35, and he says, Gene, you have $1? And I thought, wow, what the hell is, excuse my English, but what the hell does he want $1 for? So I gave him $1, and he took off, and he came back, and Hal was already, like Dan said, writing down this agreement, and he gave me this receipt. He said, now YKHC owns Aeromed International's Critical Care Air Ambulance Certificate, and all I require is you to use my aircraft and my pilots. And it took the attorneys until the end of November to put that into a contract. We flew our first mission on the 5th of December. And I want to recognize Scott Kirby. Scott was one of our original employees of Aeromed International. And today is the CEO of LifeMed, the joint venture between Providence Healthcare System and Aeromed. You know, we don't have the numbers on the year just completed, but last year we did almost $42 million in medevacs statewide. Like Dan said, we got almost $4 million of the medevacs free of charge within region and statewide here, and occasionally moving our patients down to Seattle. We have a hangar we own here and leased aircraft and pilots. We have 2 hangars we own in Anchorage and 2 Lears and a King Air. We lease out of Fairbanks, and we got a King Air up there. And we have an A-Star chopper in the Matt Valley in the leased hangar. We have an A-Star chopper down at Central Peninsula Hospital in Soldotna. They provide the hangar space there. But that has been a significant improvement in healthcare out here. I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of the employees that stuck with us. Most of the Aeromed team now is still with us with LifeMed. And we've had a good working relationship with Providence Healthcare Systems. I want to talk a little about, there were so many things that was going through my mind a little while ago. Now I'm kind of getting brain dead, but you know, contracting the hospital. When the board hired me, and my first day was April 1, 1990, I thought, what's April Fool's Day? It might be a fool taking his job over. And they charged me with 3 things. One, you attempted to contract the hospital, it failed. We want you to contract the hospital under the 638 contract. IHS opened a small sub-regional clinic in Antioch, and that failed. They closed it down. We want a sub-regional clinic built in Antioch and to be a model for other places within our service area. And we want all our operations consolidated in close proximity to the hospital in one office building. And the easiest thing to do was to build the Antioch sub-regional clinic. We built that out. It's been in operation since '97 or something like that. And you know, we've even added to it. We've built the other 4 sub-regional clinics. And like Dan said, Billy Morgan was adamant that, as a board member, that we can't continue to provide the IHS model of services where the patient comes to the hospital. We want you to move those services out to the villages so the patient has those services right in their villages. And it's phenomenal. What we've got, Dan talked about DeltaNet. Every one of our village clinics has got VTC capacity now. We got, in the old days, if a lady had a mammogram, or if we had say an x-ray but required a radiologist to look at it, we mailed it down to a contract group of radiologists in Ohio. And 10 or 12 days later, we'd get to read back it by mail. Now, we can do it from a village clinic. We can do it from Bethel. We put VTC equipment in their offices and their homes. So we have 24/7 coverage. And we're getting a turnaround right now in that mammogram in about 28 minutes. I had an x-ray not long ago, last year, and by the time I got back to my doctor, less than 10 minutes later, he was already discussing it with the radiologist in Ohio. We have the same type of setup in Minneapolis with a group of psychiatrists and psychologists. And we have VTC equipment in their offices and their homes. And it's not like they don't know our patients. Dr. Onage has been traveling to our villages under contract at YK for nearly 20 years now. But we have instantaneous coverage here right there. And it's a lot cheaper than buying and paying $400,000 a year for one radiologist. But it's YK's been successful. And YK has been successful because the employees of this organization. You're a phenomenal group of employees, individually and collectively. There's a diversified knowledge and experience. You can come together and work as a team with a common goal, and you usually accomplish that goal. We can come up with ideas, but you, the employees, bring those ideas into fruition and become a reality. And I'm so indebted to the employees of YKHC because we've improved the quality of the life of our people out here by improving healthcare. And that's what it's all about. You know, Dan talked about DeltaNet. Well, I got the idea about DeltaNet by watching CNN. On the first Desert Storm, they showed us a military 6x truck with a 50-foot tower with these transmitters and receivers on it, and then they explained it. This is a terrestrial microwave system, and they had it on a truck so they could move it around at night so they wouldn't blow it up at night. And then they talked about the terrain in Iraq was relatively flat. And I thought, well, everything is going for us the same way, but we got one improvement. We got strategically located mountains around here, in mountain ranges, where we can get those towers up higher. Because based on the curvature of the Earth, a 100-foot tower, you've got about 25 miles of distance between towers. But we have towers located on top of a mountain behind Tanunuk, a mountaintop down connecting with Terra Southwest out of Good News Bay. We got one behind Scammon Bay up on a hill, one behind Marshall up on top of the hill there. We got one up on the hill behind Calskag. And we got redundancy. If we got an ice storm which shuts it down off the coast, we could route things the other way around. And it was a battle. But we accomplished it. And I hate to say it, but we almost bankrupt UUI trying to get that built out. But I'm mentioning things like this because in your life, you're going to have opportunities. Some will drop in your lap, run with it, make it happen. Some, you come up with an idea, ascertain who can make that idea become a reality and make it happen. It's phenomenal what we can do if we work together. And like I said, the bottom line is that improving healthcare, we improve the quality of life of our people. And that's what we're all about. That is what we're all about. And you can't achieve any better self-satisfaction than walk into a village or go into the hospital. If you remember back before we put the expansion on the hospital, there was only 9 exam rooms. There was only 1 ER room. ER, what it is today, was ER and ambulatory care. And, you know, just the satisfaction of realizing that we did this, we accomplished this, and the quality of life of our people has improved significantly. And before I close, I want to build upon what Dan said. Especially the early, probably 15 years of my career at YKHC, I did a lot of traveling. And Mom, it was hard on you, I know. I apologize for that. There was times I should have been home. I wasn't home. And I thank you for standing up behind me. I thank the family. And this is the first time that in a long time, I can look out, see my wife, see my 3 children, see my grandchildren all sitting together. And it's really heartwarming for me to see this. And Gino the Third, you got big shoes to fill. You got to fill your uppas and your dads. And in closing, I want you to sit back, close your eyes, and envision a dog team. You got the leader, you got the dogs, you got the sled, you got the musher. YK, we claim that our culturally relevant org chart is a dog team. We got the leader out front.